where, because Burrow's going to come in over 50, Herbert's going to come in over 50. So when you think about who's coming behind him, I don't think 45 is unreasonable. It's just I agree with you. If you're the Giants, aren't you better served just swinging on a rookie deal and hoping for the best?
Yeah, and the real value in those contracts is not necessarily in saying, if Burrow's going to get 52 or 53, and therefore Daniel Jones deserves 45. All of the values in the extra 7 or 8. You know what I mean? Like, if you're paying a guy 45 when the elite ones are getting 52 or 53, you're settling for quarterback purgatory. You just are.
Right.
If you want to do that, that's fine. But
it's kind of like
doing it right now.
Yeah, it's like either buy a $15,000 car or a $50,000 car. Buying a $30,000 car, it's like, well, right, either drop down and save, or just go up and get what you want.
Don't expect a $30,000 car to perform like a $50,000 car does.
Oh,
that's all. And in those terms, I think you can get away with Daniel Jones. If it's a short-term deal, I mean, maybe they just tag him and it's a 1-year thing. I don't know though.
That's dangerous though, because if he does it again, now he's going to want 55.
But it might be worth it. You know what I mean? Like if he proves it, like if we're viewing this as a one-off, if he does it again, I don't know. I don't have a good answer. I guess I'm just bitching to bitch.
I mean, towards the end of the season, when we were talking about this on this show, I said they'd be crazy to bring him back because they're going to have to pay him. And you and Clev thought he had done enough to earn his way back. But time to put pen to paper, paying Daniel Jones $40 million a year is.
I guess what I said was ignorant then, because I never would have conceived that it would have been that number. I never would have thought it would have been there.
Yeah, you thought he'd come with like the 31 million Jared Goff number.
Yeah, I would have thought he'd have come in, in and around the top 10 range, but nowhere near threatening, to be the highest paid or one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL.
Well, the thing is, I don't think it is one of the highest paid, because certainly by the time the contract is over, he'll be in the bottom half of quarterbacks again in terms of salary.
Yeah. But right now, he would be, my guess, a top 5-ish paid quarterback.
Well, Watson, Kyler, Rodgers, Mahomes, and
I don't
Lamar.
think Mahomes makes that much.
Mahomes is about to hit 50. At some point during this 10-year contract, he gets up there. And also, he's going to rework his anyways to make sure he gets it.
I know. It's just like,
Kyler's going to be over 50 next year. And then, like I said, Burrow's coming up. Herbert's coming up. They're going to get over that. Lawrence will get over that when his time comes. So, like, by the time, say Daniel Jones gets a 4-year, $45 million per year deal, he'll be like the 17th highest paid quarterback when the deal is over. And by that logic, I don't think it's super terrible. It's just tough because it's Daniel Jones. You know what I mean?
And that's, part of it is also like, I go back and forth on it too, because it's like, he doesn't really have weapons, and he played pretty well last year. I mean, he really did. He took care of the ball. I get why they would want the stability of having him as their starting quarterback. I get it. It's just, I guess I just need to let go of the number. The number doesn't matter, and it doesn't mean anything in the big picture that what we're talking about anyway. It's just, the number's whatever the number comes in at, and so be it. Mahomes is like his cap hit is $47 million. A paltry $47 million.
Right.
It's crazy.
But I think next year it goes over 50.
Yeah, I'm looking. His cap hit or cap hit? There's 1 year where it goes to 60.
Yeah. So,
and then the back two in like 2030 and 2031 are in the 50s. But right now, like this coming season, he's 47, and then it's 44, then it's 46, and if you average out those three, Jones is going to be paid like Mahomes for the next 3 years.
Yeah, I think Mahomes is getting a new deal.
He should, if that's
yeah. So, by the time we get to the East divisions, which will be in a couple weeks, we'll probably have some. Well, we'll have to. They'll have to make a tag decision by then.
Yeah.
So we'll know by the time the Giants come up again what they've decided to do in this regard. So the other thing I want to talk about, I sent Cleve a graphic that showed every quarterback that has started for the Jets since Mark Sanchez has a losing record. And
why would you do that to him?
Well, because I was meant to be like excited because I think they're going to get Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, he saw it as a hostile act. So he responded with a year by year, like recounting of the Lions record from like 2005 till now, or 2000 till now.
Man.
And I didn't realize something looking at that, but the Lions had 3 out of 4 winning seasons from like 14 to 18 or something. And Scott, how many games since the 2011 season began do you think the Jets have won total?
Since the 2011, so in 11 seasons, 12 seasons?
Yeah.
Because
in 09 and 10 they made the conference championship game. So since they did that, they've won 70 games. In that
11
time,
seasons?
Yeah.
So
or 12
6?
seasons. Yeah.
Wow.
In that same time period, how many games have the Lions won?
49.
83.
I'm a moron.
So it's funny because we always consider the Lions to be like bottom of the barrel, bottom of the league. It's Jacksonville, Houston, Cleveland, Detroit, or whatever. But it just hasn't been the case. And it just made me think like how many other fan bases are sort of off base like that with who about their team.
Kind of gloss over the 2013, 14, and 15 years where they rolled into the playoffs and then promptly got, violated quickly.
Yeah. In 14 by the officials. Yeah.
Yes. But I remember them going to, was it New Orleans one year where it was just like, it was obvious they had absolutely no chance.
Yeah.
And then I want to, did they play Seattle in the playoffs too?
Yep. They played Seattle. Just no chance there.
No prayer.
Yeah. They beat the Cowboys on the road. Then the refs made them beat them twice. They couldn't do it. Yep. And then the next week was the Des Bryant no catch game. So it was justice. That was a ball don't lie for the Cowboys right there. But it's just like, and Cleveland's bringing up like the 0-16, which of course is always there.
Yeah.
But that was like the year Obama got elected the first time.
Yeah. That's a lifetime ago.
Yeah. Like the distance from then to now going forward is 2038.
Yeah.
It's just like, but it's still so fresh in my mind. So I was just wondering if that was a thing with just like with us or with other fan bases or something like that. Where they just
for me, it's recency bias for sure. All I think about when I think about the Lions is
Patricia.
Patricia and Bob Quinn, and that the Bob Quinn with the baseball bat in the draft room and just laughing at that whole concept. Like, come on, man! Like, come on! It's so embarrassing. Like maybe again, this is the lesson for the evening. I guess we should have seen this coming. It shouldn't have been difficult to look at Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn and think this is going to be a very terrible failure. I'm happy it failed as quickly as it did.
Yes, really. And they can move on to an absolutely insane man who seems to be a good football coach. So, I was just thinking that too because I was thinking about like my other fandoms and. When I was younger, I didn't have a clear sense of Michigan football. I assumed that like they were always like a top 5 team, like no matter what was happening. Not anymore. But like, I don't know. The Red Wings were good. I thought they were good. Now they're not so good. I don't think they're that good. The Pistons are garbage. Like but the Lions, it's just like in my head, like, oh, for the last 10 years, they've been terrible, but they haven't been. They've been mostly mediocre with a couple decent seasons, a couple bad seasons. So,
it's a shame too because those teams were good. Those Caldwell teams were good teams. They just couldn't get over the hump. But and Dominican Sue and Nick Fairley in the inside there, and Ziggy Ansah and some of the other stuff they had going on. DeAndre Levy was awesome for that short little run that he had.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that was because of how great that defensive line was, though. But in the end, I know that we think the referees kind of took that game from the Lions, and they did, but the Lions did have the ball at midfield too. And, Stafford went Stafford and just kind of like, I'm not saying the Lions didn't get completely screwed, because they did. But, what's happening here?
Oh, we're just getting ready. We're just getting ready.
I thought that was a picture of Cleve and with the white beard.
Oh man. No, give it a couple more years. For the audio listeners, there's a picture of Lovie Smith up on the screen as we're about to start talking about the AFC South. Oh man. Paul said that's racist. I mean,
how?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could be ageist because they're both old. I don't know. I will say,
how old is Lovie Smith though? Seriously.
Oh, he's got to be 65.
No way. I'm looking it up. Again, no, this doesn't matter, but I'm doing it anyway.
Okay, so while Scott's looking up how old Lovie Smith is, I will go ahead and bring us into this next topic here. So we are going to be reviewing the Southern divisions here. Probably our least favorite divisions to just talk about in general. Not much going on in any of these divisions, say for maybe Jacksonville.
He was?
I thought he was 65.
He's 66, I think. Good call.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah. I didn't put this picture there to dog Lovie Smith. It's just because he got fired as coach of the Texans.
Well, I mean, if you took away the beard, you would never project that as a 65-year-old dude.
No.
He doesn't,
No.
He was better than I do. But that's kind of a low bar. Let's move on.
So, not our favorite divisions to talk about. Matty Ice famously hates the AFC South. But there is some interesting offseason stuff coming up here. So if you're watching on YouTube, I've got our sort of visual guide to take us through the teams. If you're listening on audio, it is a YouTube live stream. There's a link in the show notes. Go to the link, like and subscribe, because as we go through for the future ones here, there's going to be 3 more of these. We'll have the same similar visual guide. So the 4th place team in the AFC South, Scott, was the Houston Texans, which you and I did predict on the season preview episode for these divisions. We did predict that they would finish dead last. Now we can see here that the Vegas win total was 4.5. So Vegas came in over. Clev said they would win 6 games. Remember, he also called for Lovie Smith to be coach of the year.
And if they would have won 6 games, you detailed it out. I think it was last episode.
Yeah.
There's no chance that a guy who wins 6 games wins coach of the year. But
he'd been
all
top 5.
Talking about how great a job he did.
Right. Absolutely. Now, what's important to note here is that they actually won 2 of their final 3 games to lose the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Which is going to cost them. And I love how Lovie, I think, knew he was going to get fired, so he just won the games.
I'm sticking it to you. Yep.
Oh my goodness. So they fired their head coach, Lovie Smith, and for the 3rd straight year, they've hired a black head coach. They hired D'Amico Ryans, the former San Francisco defensive coordinator. Scott, I really like that hire.
I do too. Just so we all get it, I tend to like all of the hires that are made because it's hard to have like a real solid opinion on a random coordinator from random city that you don't follow all that well. Having said that, D'Amico Ryans is not that guy. Like, it's easy to see where he's been successful and how, and how he should have he's set up for some success here. He is a good coach. He really is.
Yeah. And so part of that being set up for the success here is that for their cap room, they have $38 million, which is the 4th most. Also, their draft capital is insane because of the Deshaun Watson trade. They have the number 2 and number 12 overall picks and 5 picks in the first 3 rounds.
Yes.
Do you think, I mean, they're going to trade up with Chicago to make sure they get their guy, right? With all these picks, they can give up the number 2 and a third rounder, and Chicago would snap that up.
I think they will, but I don't know, because so this is going to be a really interesting draft. The quarterback, the top 4 quarterbacks, we could do a 2-hour episode on this. Is anybody really buying the idea that you're drafting a 5'10", 185-pound quarterback? Are we buying the idea that somebody's trading up to 1 for that player?
Yes.
Regardless of what, do you think somebody will do that?
Yeah, he's the best quarterback in the draft, so yes.
Okay. If that's our approach, that's fine. I mean, we can, that's cool. So CJ Stroud has the same agent as Deshaun Watson does.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is the Texans are not in on CJ Stroud, period.
Okay.
So if you're thinking about it like I am, that the size is an issue to be trading up to 1, that leaves one of 2 players to me, and it's Anthony, I got it right, Richardson, and Will Levis. And, if it's me there, I'm picking Richardson, and I'm doing it twice on Sundays, and I'm thrilled I'm doing it. But I'm with you. Bryce Young is the best right now, the best quarterback in this draft. Mm-hmm. It's just there's some context that goes with that makes me kind of there's a little trepidation, which is a big word for me. I hope I used it accurately. There's just a little bit of a pause. Like he is literally like a high school point guard. Are you really giving up assets to go get him? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think the size is going to be as important going forward as it used to be, because like you can't even touch the quarterback anymore. So I don't think it's as much of a thing. Plus, Bryce Young just has always reminded me a lot of Drew Brees.
Yeah.
Stylistically, production-wise, just the whole thing. So I don't have any questions about Bryce Young. Now, somebody might prefer one of these other guys. However, whoever Houston prefers, I assume they're going to want to go get, because somebody else will go to number 1 if they don't.
100%. Whoever they prefer, they will lock it up. Yes.
Now, if they prefer Richardson, maybe they don't go to number 1 because they assume nobody's going to number 1 for Richardson.
Yeah.
Right. So if that's the case, then maybe they don't. But my guess is that they're going to have to go to number 1 if they want Stroud, Levis, or Young. They're going to have to get up there to get them.
And there will be competition too. I mean, Indy's in the mix there too.
Oh yeah, they're coming up.
They're coming up. Vegas is 7th. Atlanta's 8th. Carolina's 9th. Those teams need that's what I mean. The 4 quarterbacks it's going to be really interesting to see where it all shakes out. But yeah, being that they have 2-12 and a bunch of, seconds and thirds, they should be able to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah. So I just realized that for the Texans, I put key free agents, non-terrible roster.
What about Laramie Tunsil?
And it was so bad that I actually forgot to list the free agents for every other team. Because I was like, wow, that's terrible. We don't need that. So for the rest of this one, there won't be any key free agents. I apologize, unless we know off the top of our heads. But it's the Southern divisions. Like, who is there really? But big questions of the offseason, as we've been talking about, what are they going to do at the quarterback position? We know they're going to draft one. They aren't going to sign Jimmy G. Like, they're going to draft one with their number 2 overall pick or trade up to number 1, right? They're not signing Derek Carr.
No, well, I mean, they have the cap space to do it, but it doesn't make – you have Davis Mills that you can play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Davis Mills can start for you this year. What if you draft a quarterback who needs a little bit of time? You have the ability to do that. They're not pressed to need a veteran guy. They're not. So, no, I don't think they would do that.
And they have 2 first-round picks next year again, right?
They do. And that's the year to be really –
yes.
That's the prize.
Yes. Yeah. They could come out. I mean, they might think about that, though. They might think like, well, what if we take Will Anderson instead, and then next year we're tanking for Caleb Williams or something like that, and do it in reverse. But that's That
Or
might be a little
do
too
you-
cute by half.
Let's say you trade out and you go to 7 or 9 and you get their first next. I mean, you want Carolina's first for next year? Please. You're in the ball game, right? Like you're right where you need to be.
And with 3 first-round picks, unless the first overall team picking first needs a quarterback, you have the ammo to trade up and get Williams if you want him. So
You do.
but
Drake May's in that class next year. McCarthy should be. There's other quarterbacks too.
Yeah, but Caleb Williams
he's the prize.
He's it. Yes,
he's the prize from a year plus out.
If you don't take a quarterback this year, it's because you want Williams next year. It's not because you want JJ McCarthy. It's because you want Caleb Williams.
I would assume so. Yes.
Yeah. And then do they move Brandon Cooks? I was shocked they didn't move Brandon Cooks during the season, but as I understand it, there's some weird contract thing where like the other team has to take on half the hit or some such. But they have to move him now, right?
Super pissed that he was not moved. So yes, I would think he would be traded. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. This split up here. Okay. So their draft here, they had 2 first-round picks last year, Stingley and Kenyon Green. No, Stingley was the pick right before Sauce Gardner, so that doesn't look that great. But what do you think of Stingley this year?
I don't have a great answer for you.
It was just kind of there, right?
He was there. I think he got banged up a little bit. He's a good player. He's a really good player.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the Sauce thing makes it look like.
Yeah.
But that position's so volatile. Stingley could be a better player than Sauce next year, and it shouldn't surprise anybody. He's a very talented guy. It's just some injuries and some other things kind of caught up.
Yep. Kenyon Green actually did play pretty well, which you would expect from the 15th overall pick as a guard. But again, how much value are you getting out of the guard position? But apparently he's good. But the one I wanted to bring up was a 37th overall pick, Jalen Petrie, which you were very excited about him in the pre-draft process. When we went over this into the season, you're like, Jalen Petrie is a good player. That's a player to look out for. And oh boy, is Jalen Petrie a good player.
He is a very good player. It would be better for him if he would make more tackles. Like there are times when he's in position to make tackles and he just doesn't. But he was really good. Brian Branch, the Alabama sort of nickel safety, whatever you want to call him, in this particular draft is like a souped up version of Petrie. My guess is he's off the board in the top 15 picks range. But they're very similar players.
Yeah. The 4th round, they took Damian Pierce, the running back, who ended up starting for them right out of the gate, was pretty good. He did get hurt a bit down the stretch, and but this just goes to show you can find good running backs later in the draft. You do not need to be taking them early. Damian Pierce is a perfectly fine, if not good, running back.
Yeah. It's an interesting one is John Mechie. Like when recovers, how does he finish out? And if he's a player and a part of things, then it makes it easier to move away from Cooks.
I think they have to move away from Cooks no matter what.
Yeah. It's just, you've already got a built-in, a guy who should know your system. And, he's not that he's fast like Cooks, but he's a good player.
And then pick 170 in the 5th round, Tegan Quitoriano or Quentin Tarantino actually ended up being very important on a Thursday night game as he caught a touchdown for the showdown on DraftKings. So that was, he was the skeleton key for that one. All right. 3rd place team in the division, the Indianapolis Colts.
Wow.
They go 4-12-1, which is about good enough for 3rd in the shit division. Their Vegas win total was 10. Cleve said 9. They only won 4. So to say they underperformed is a bit of an understatement.
A little bit, yeah.
To note, though, they did beat the Chiefs in week 3.
Yeah. Was Matt Ryan starting then? I believe he was.
Yep. Yeah. So head coach Frank Reich was forced to start Sam Ehlinger, not Parker Ehlinger. And then Frank Reich was fired when it predictably did not work out.
It's amazing how that works out, right? Like, I'm forcing you to do what I want you to do. And, oh, by the way, you're fired.
Right. Exactly. And so then Jim Irsay decided to hire Jeff Saturday straight off the set of Get Up to come in and be the head coach with no experience of the Indianapolis Colts. They won the first game, talked a bunch of shit everywhere, and then lost their last 7 games in a row.
I love that. Talked a bunch of shit and lost everything else.
They did. Oh, they were talking everywhere. They were chirping on Twitter. They were chirping in the media.
Yep.
Like just insane. And so yeah, Jonathan Taylor did miss most of the season with an injury. They then fired head coach Jeff Saturday. They hired Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles. They have $13 million in cap room. In their draft capital, they have number 4 overall and 3 in the top 100. And then the same thing as the Texans. What do they do at the quarterback position? Are they going to trade up for the quarterback?
Maybe they don't have to, but when you look at Steichen, you look at where he was in Philly with Jalen Hurts, and you think about, where I'm going, the quarterback that's out there that sort of fits that mold. Do you have to jump? Do you have to come up for Anthony Richardson? And my assumption is you still do, because I want to say Arizona's sitting at 3, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You have to be fearful if you're sitting at 4, and what if somebody jumps in front of you for the player that you covet?
It's not just jumping up to 3, because the Bears could trade back 1 spot and then trade back again.
They could.
So
they could
2 and 3.
They could. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I mean, this is one of those things where Indy could come to 1.
Yeah.
And make the offer that the Bears prefer.
Mm-hmm.
Because it puts them in the range of, this is
Carter Anderson. They're locked in Carter Anderson, yeah.
Yeah. And maybe Houston just decides not to play ball, and that with that kind of an offer, and Indy goes up and gets the guy that they want, which could be Richardson. And
I think Indy takes Bryce Young.
Maybe.
I mean, they got Michael Pittman, they got Jonathan Taylor, the offensive line's not great, but they got Quentin Nelson. They're in the dome. Like, mm-hmm. I think Bryce Young, and it's hard for me to see Jim Irsay being like, that's pass on this guy who threw for 9 million yards at Alabama. Like, it'd be tough to sell him on somebody else.
Possibly. I didn't consider that Irsay was going to leverage him, the whole process, but he will. Yeah. Yeah.
It would just be, he seems like a difficult man to convince to change his mind.
Yeah.
he seems a little stubborn, to put it mildly. Outside of the quarterback position, though, I don't like, this team is okay. I mean, Shaq Leonard is old. They could use some help on defense, but this is a team that's expected to win 10 games.
Yeah.
And that wasn't crazy. Right. So that they only won 4. This is a team that's a candidate to bounce back and win 9 next year.
Yeah, I think so. Because I think the Taylor thing really crushed their offense, and then you just get into situations where you're behind in games, and your defense can't keep you in games, and then your offense is turning the ball over, and it just sort of the snowball rolling down the hill thing. Yeah, I mean, I could see them bouncing back a little and being a 7-win team kind of thing with a younger quarterback. I could see that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Going over their draft from last year. This is tough for me. Alec Pierce, they didn't have a pick in the first round. Their first pick was 53 overall in the second. They took Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati. Now, he wasn't really used that much.
No.
But he's also a young receiver, and we're used to now young receivers coming and being great, but that's the elite ones. The non-elite ones still take a while.
Round 2 receiver. Yeah.
Right. But even DK Metcalf and AJ Brown were great right away, but they were underdrafted. Yes. Right. The actual second round wide receivers and later still take a little while to develop. They are second-year breakout candidates. The big-time guys you want to break out immediately. Yeah. Right. So he's a second-year breakout candidate. If they add somebody like a Bryce Young, Alec Pierce is going to benefit.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And Michael Pittman will.
Yeah.
I know you're dangling Jelani Woods and the other stuff going on that we have going on. He is an intriguing player.
Yes.
He should take a step as well. He should.
Yeah. I didn't list free agents. Mo Alley Cox feels like he has to be a free agent because I don't remember him ever signing a deal, and he's been there for 9,000 years.
Yeah, he has been there forever.
It just feels like, or he's a cut candidate or something. Like Jack Doyle retired, now Mo Alley goes on somewhere, and like Jelani Woods just finally gets the Dallas Goedert treatment from the new coach, right?
Yeah.
And then the rest of this class, like none of these players really jumped out to me as having done anything this year. Did any of these players, with you watching, do anything?
No, I don't remember. I mean, I like Nick Cross coming out of Maryland, but I don't remember a single play that he made where I thought Nick Cross is in Indy now.
Right. Yeah. So you don't have a first round pick, and you kind of just blew the rest of the draft. That's rough.
I mean, we'll see. If Bernard Ryman can figure it out, and maybe he plays right tackle for you, if Jelani Woods becomes a starting tight end for you, and Pierce gives you something, that's not blowing the draft.
But when you don't have a first round pick, you got to do better than that. You can't, you got to get somebody in there. I mean, like a Jalen Petrie type. You know what I mean? Like you got to get. Although Petrie was off the board by the time they picked
at 37. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
You'd want to have something to be a little more excited about than that.
Right. All right. The second place team in the AFC South, the Tennessee Titans,
who were objectively bad last year.
Yes. Finished 7-10. For the audio listeners, I got a picture here of Derrick Henry holding his arm. Vegas win total was 9. Clev said 10. They got 7. Derrick Henry was injured in the middle of the season, missed a stretch in there. They needed the Jags to make in Week 18. They needed to beat the Jags in Week 18 to make the playoffs. They did not win. They started 0-2, then worked their way all the way back to 7-3, and then finished 7-10.
Yeah, didn't they kind of lay an egg in Week 18 as well?
Yeah, they just did nothing. But was Tannehill hurt? It was Willis, right?
No, it was Josh Dobbs.
Oh, that's right. Then with Josh Dobbs instead.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. Whoops.
So when you make a plan to draft a player like Malik Willis in the 3rd round and you do nothing to help him, and then he starts games and you've done nothing to help him and he struggles a little bit, it shouldn't surprise. Here we are again. Should have seen that coming. This was a very bad landing spot for Malik Willis.
Yeah, Paul says they gave up on Willis, and that's true. However, you said he struggled a little bit, and he struggled a lot bit.
He did. He looked very, very ill-prepared to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
But you got to give him an offense that works for his skill set.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there.
Dropping back, putting him under center and dropping him back and not allowing him to run and then getting mad when he does, probably not great.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. The way they used Malik Willis was terrible. If I were him, I'd just be demanding a trade. Like, just sit out. Can't.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what happens because my assumption is Vrabel, when you what was his name? John Robinson. When he got fired in early mid-December, it was very obvious, very quick that Mike Vrabel wanted nothing to do with Malik Willis.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's changing. So, yeah, I mean, Willis might be one of those guys that you could offer a 6th or 7th round pick for at some point in the run-up to the draft, and maybe you get him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's certainly worth bringing in.
Yeah.
All right, Paul's out here saying he almost looked as bad as Trey Lance. We're not going to let the slander. Slide here, Paul. That is just absolutely inaccurate. I will be taking more Malik Willis in super flex drafts this offseason. For the Titans, their cap room this year is a negative $23 million, which keep that in mind as we get to the offseason questions. Their draft capital, they have number 11 overall, 3 in the top 100. So here's the questions. Do they bring back Tannehill? Do they trade Derrick Henry?
I don't know. the cap is like just a snapshot in time, so you just have to be compliant for like a short window. I don't know what they're going to do with Henry, and I can't imagine them bringing back Tannehill. But are they going to just roll with Dobbs? What are you doing?
Well, they have number 11 overall. That puts them within striking distance of moving up if they want for one of the 4 quarterbacks, right?
It does, but you don't have. I mean, you'd have to be sacrificing your first next year because they don't have a ton of capital. You know what I mean? Like you do have. I want to say you have a mid-second and a mid-third. And if you're going from 11 to, say, 3 or 4 or whatever it is, it's a big jump. It might eat at all of that top 100 capital and then some. And this is not a good football team.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, this feels like a Jimmy G team.
It really does.
Like or some Jimmy G equivalent.
Yeah, no, it does for sure. It's like I could see this being where Derek Carr ends up, which I don't know how, but I could see it.
Yeah, they certainly can't afford him right now.
Like, socially, that's a nice place for him and his family, and you'd definitely be moving on from Derrick Henry if that were the case.
Yeah, they're in a rough spot because their wide receivers are garbage. They have Traylon Burks, Nick Westbrook-Akine is a free agent. Robert Woods is as old as Lovie Smith. Kyle Phillips is coming off of a major injury. They need help everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
So for their draft here, the first round pick last year, Traylon Burks, number 18 overall, was hurt to start the season, was a bit slower to come on, but I thought he looked fine once he got going.
He did.
Yep. Second round pick, Roger McCreary out of Auburn, thought he played pretty well.
He did.
Yep, thought he was just fine. So both of those are hits at least. Now in the third round, they had 2 picks. They took at pick 69 Nicholas Petit-Frere, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State, who ended up starting for them and struggled, in my opinion, kind of predictably. Like he looks like he's going to be okay.
Yeah. I think he'll be an adequate, average player.
Yeah. Third round, 86, they took Malik Willis, as we mentioned before. Not entirely sure why they did that, if they were going to ever use him. Yeah. So that's a wasted pick. Fourth round, they took Hassan Haskins and Chigo Okonkwo from Maryland. And Chigoziem Okonkwo is a player for real.
And I think Kyle Phillips is too.
Yeah, 5th round pick, Kyle Phillips.
Slot receiver, kind of like a super quick dude, yes.
Yeah. This is the kind of draft from 2nd round on that the Colts needed to have when they didn't have a 1st round pick. This was a strong draft aside from the Malik Willis debacle.
Yes, this is a good draft.
Yeah. And they're going to need, you know what? I was thinking they're in a trade up position. They might be in a trade down position.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to come up to 11 for something, somebody starts falling, one of the corners somebody likes, right? They might be in a trade back position to have to get more picks because they are in a ton of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, is Taylor Lewan back? I doubt it. They could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. All right, the champions of the AFC South, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So this is one we give Clev a lot of grief for his win total predictions. We give him a lot of grief, but he was on this one. Yeah. They finished 9-8, first in the AFC South, lost in the divisional round at Kansas City. Vegas win total 6.5. Clev said 8. He was all over this one. He was all over Jacksonville, turning around year one, right, just brand new coach. Let's go.
Yeah, he was. It's a good story too, because as bad as that situation was last year with Urban Meyer, which we should have seen coming, for Peterson to get this turned around this quickly, and for him to make Lawrence look as good as he has, that's impressive. It really is.
Yeah. So they started the year 3-7, finished 6-1 down the stretch to make it 9-8 and win the division, winning the aforementioned game in Week 18 over the Titans to do so. Also in the season, they traded for wide receiver Calvin Ridley, which a lot of people have forgotten about, that they get to add Calvin Ridley to this team next year.
Sneaky.
Yeah. Yeah. And got a good price for him, too.
Yeah. I mean, think about him at his best, playing well in that offense.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good.
Yeah, that's a strong move for them. You mentioned this. Trevor Lawrence finally looked like what we expected. Clearly, Herb was a hindrance to the entire team. You mentioned that. Shout out to Jake. The Chargers came back from 27 down to beat the Chargers in the wild card round.
Shout out to Jake. That is so hurtful. It just is.
Hey, remember when the Chargers had a 27-point lead against Jacksonville in the second half, and Austin Eckler finished the game with 6 carries?
Yes. Hey, Joe Lombardi. Don't let the door hit you.
Speaking of Joe Lombardi, the USFL had their draft today. I assume that's where he's going to end up.
Is he running an offense in USFL somewhere?
I'm just assuming, because there's no way an NFL team's ever going to hire him again, right? He couldn't do anything with Stafford or Herbert.
It just makes it's like that's the point. You've got Stafford and you neutered him. You have Herbert and you've neutered him. How about no?
Yeah, exactly. Cap room for the Chargers, negative $24 million. IMO, adios, Keenan Allen.
Wait, cap room for the Jaguars is negative 24 million?
Oh, yeah. I was thinking of the Chargers, but yes, it is negative 24 million. But who's it on their team? The Chargers are in a bad cap space too. God, they have like a bunch of old players they can get rid of. But yeah, they're at negative 24 right now.
Is Calais Campbell one of them?
Isn't he in Baltimore?
Could be. Maybe.
Yeah.
I can't think of who's really crushing their cap.
Christian Kirk.
Yeah, that's true.
Zay Jones. Although I guess they paid out. They paid off this year. But yeah, they're in some cap trouble this year. But I think like once all the free agents start coming off, they'll be all right.
Yeah.
Draft capital number 24 overall. That's so weird to think about with Jacksonville, number 24 overall.
It really is.
And then 3 in the top 100. So the questions going into this offseason and next year, will they be able to handle the pressure of being preseason favorites in the division?
I think so. I mean, you've got an up-and-coming quarterback in an ascendant offense. Etienne really didn't get going last year all that much.
No, he played well. He had a pretty good season.
But he wasn't like focal point of their offense type thing.
Well, they won't throw it to him, which is weird.
I hope they learn to do that.
Yeah,
it'd be nice because he is an electric player.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that this is a team that'll stay here for a little while.
Yeah. And then do they still need to overspend to get free agents to sign with them now that there's some hype around them?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Florida, no state tax, nice weather, all that stuff. It does matter. I think
you do have to live in Florida.
Well, just during football season.
That's true. Which is a good time to be living in Florida, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's the AFC South there. Much more competitive than we thought. It was cool that the Jags ended up winning it. We had a surprise winner of this division, and that's great. I'm excited for Jacksonville next year, but that's the only team. Maybe the Colts, depending on what quarterback they get. But generally going into next year, Jacksonville's got to be a heavy favorite to repeat as champs, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. All right, NFC South. Oh wait, sorry. The draft picks. The draft picks. My goodness, for Jacksonville. So they had the first overall pick, Trayvon Walker. Flash looked okay, but we always knew it was going to take a while. Scott, are you there?
I'm here. Devin Lloyd.
Devin Lloyd. Also,
I was frozen. I'm trying to read.
Oh, sorry. Also,
good.
first round pick, Devin Lloyd. So they had 2 defensive players.
Yeah. I thought Lloyd looked good this year.
Yeah.
Played well.
After that, though, they didn't get anything this past year out of anybody, right? Luke Fortner, Chad Mumma, Snoop Connor never saw a carry. Greg Jr., Monteric Brown.
Yeah, but I think you're going to get some stuff out of Muma.
Okay.
Very athletic linebacker. And Fortner played. I want to say Fortner did play, and he did start.
Oh, okay.
To what level, I don't know, but he did play.
Yeah.
So, is it a great class? No, but, at the top, you've got Walker, who should emerge to be, a serviceable pass. This was a mistake, but, that's for a story for another time.
Yeah. Yes. They should have taken Hutch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
All right. To the NFC South. Last place in the NFC South, we have the Atlanta Falcons. For the people listening, the picture here is caveman football, and it's a caveman with what is admittedly a soccer ball, but still, it's given that Arthur Smith doesn't the quarterback use their hands either. This is it's still fitting.
What is the forward pass, people?
Yeah, that man has no idea. So they go 7-10 to finish fourth in the NFC South. The Texans won 3 games to finish fourth. So the NFC South was a lot better.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So the Vegas win total was 5. Excuse me. Clev said that they would win 7. He was dead on again.
Bingo.
Right.
He's on fire.
On the marker. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, his misses were big, but he's got a couple where he just was ahead of the game.
Yeah.
So
nice.
The Falcons the Falcons somehow won 7 games despite never throwing a pass. They won the last 2 games of the year to make their record more respectable than their overall performance. Like this feels like a 5-12 team.
Yes.
But they ripped off a couple at the end. Drake London is the real deal.
Yes, he is.
He is fantastic.
How do you spread that Arthur Smith offense out? Probably a guy who doesn't want to throw the ball to Drake London and Kyle Pitts.
Yeah,
and make it work.
Yeah, because Drake London had like a 29% target share, and it came out to like 6 targets per game.
Mm-hmm.
So he's getting targeted like Devontae Adams, but only gets 6 targets per game because they never throw the ball. I wonder if that's a reflection of their quarterbacks, and if they get somebody in there, he would actually open it up.
Yeah,
and I have a thought about that for later. Now, for the captain for the Falcons, as I believe this is the second most in the league, they have $56 million in cap space. There's a lot of cap space.
That is. You can do pretty much anything you want.
Yes. And there's something I think that they should want to do. Draft capital, number 8 overall, 3 in the top 100. So, my note here, will head coach Arthur Smith throw the ball more with Drake London and Kyle Pitts if he gets a QB he trusts? Scott, tell me why the Falcons should not be the primary team trying to get Lamar Jackson.
They should absolutely be the team trying to get Lamar Jackson. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And that offense would go from what it looked like last year to pretty explosive and electric very quickly.
In the dome, every secondary in that division sucks, including their own. This would be Kyle Pitts, excluding Mark Andrews. Kyle Pitts and Drake London would be the best players Lamar Jackson's ever played with.
Yes.
And it's not even close.
Yes.
They have the number 8 overall pick. Give them number 8. Give them the first next year. Go get Lamar Jackson. You have $56 million in cap room at the start of the offseason. Just give it to Lamar Jackson.
I'm not going to argue that. That would turn that offense would be super explosive.
And then how does any other team, like the Saints are like, we're going to add Derek Carr.
Good
okay. Okay.
Who cares?
Right. Go for it. Yes. The Falcons should 100% be after Lamar Jackson. And if it only cost them 2 first-round picks, to pay him the Deshaun Watson contract, that still makes him cheaper than Watson because Watson costs 3 first-round picks.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should absolutely be doing this. And in fact, I think unless the Ravens exclusive tag Jackson and just say we are never trading him, the Falcons will fail if they don't get him.
It just feels like the right fit. Giving the Ravens next year's first rounder plus the 8th overall pick in this draft, that'd be something I think that would intrigue Baltimore.
Yeah. And even a little bit more. Give them a couple thirds as well.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah. No, that's a great thought. It really isn't, and I think it's the perfect fit.
Yeah, that would be pretty fantastic. Seriously, they spent 2 top 10 picks on London and Pitts. Throw the ball,
please.
So yeah, the Falcons again, just a frustrating team for fantasy, frustrating in real life. Arthur Smith sucks, but give him Lamar Jackson, maybe he'll be better.
Yeah.
For their draft, Now for their draft last year, again 8th overall, Drake London, smash. First wide receiver off the board, good pick. I mean, you could take an Olave or Garrett Wilson as well. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
Maybe even Jameson Williams, we'll see. But Drake London, absolute smash every way possible.
Yep. I think he was really good.
Yep. Second round pick, Arnold Ebiketie out of Penn State. Yeah, fantastic.
Super bendy, Gumby-like edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
Troy Anderson's a really good player, a do-it-all type out of Montana State.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to think of Ritter. I think they already have thoughts. Tyler Algier is a good running back, not a great running back, but everybody
assumed correctly that Ritter would need multiple years to get there.
Yeah.
So I don't think Ritter had a bad rookie season, given that.
Well, there was this desire for people to talk about him as a finished product entering the NFL because he had played so much, and that he would take less time to get up and running than the average quarterbacks.
That's only people who haven't actually watched him play.
I always found that as nonsense because it's like he needs time.
Yeah.
He needs a lot of time and he needs help.
Yes.
He'd be a fine backup to Lamar Jackson.
He'd be a perfect backup for Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
Tyler Algier, he actually might be really good. If you look at some of like the advanced metrics sort of stuff, forced tackles missed and yards after contact and all these other things, he's actually he led the rookie running backs in most of them. He might actually be good.
Yeah, in the 5th round.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Justin Schaefer and John Fitzpatrick are made up players.
Yeah, those are not people.
Yeah. So Atlanta will either trade for Lamar Jackson or remain completely irrelevant, in my opinion.
Well, if it's not Lamar, who?
Right. I mean, if it's not Lamar, because Lamar, they can still call their insane running amount because they have Lamar, but the passes will be much more explosive and better and down the field and everything. So if it's Jimmy G, they're just going to run it 80% of the time.
Yeah.
If it's Carr, they're going to run it 80% of the time, and it's just not going to do anything. So unless they get Lamar, who really cares?
Yeah. I'm with you.
3rd place team this past year, the New Orleans Saints. Finished 7-10, same record as the Falcons. 3rd in the NFC South. Ignore this note here where it says it made the playoffs somehow, got destroyed by Kansas City. That is inaccurate leftover from when I was using this before.
It's all good.
That is not true. The Saints did not make the playoffs and did not get destroyed by Kansas City.
But Cleve did nail this one again.
He did. The Vegas win total was 8. Cleve said 7. He was dead on again.
The answer to your question is no.
Yeah. So the question I have here is, can anyone mention one interesting game for the Saints this year?
No.
No.
Didn't happen.
No, it did not. There was not a single one. I had to put a picture of Chris Olave because he was the only player who did anything the least bit interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Juwan Johnson looked good, but yes, I'm with you.
Yeah. I mean, but looked good for he flashes. He might do nothing for the next 3 years, right?
Yeah.
He might be Jordan Akins.
Sure.
Yeah. So
we don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Chris Olave probably should have won Rookie of the Year, which was your prediction.
Garrett Wilson was awesome.
I mean, he was. I don't think he's a deserving winner, but Olave was the best. Somehow Dennis Allen is still their coach.
Amazingly.
I'll get that. Cap room, they have the least in the league, negative $58 million.
Yeah, they can make all that up, I believe, by cutting one player, Michael Thomas. I think he represents $61 million on their cap hit.
Wow.
I think. Yes.
Wow. And he's caught, what, 3 passes in 3 years?
He has done nothing. Really.
He's
only caught 3 more passes than you.
He disappeared. He disappeared when COVID showed up.
Yes.
he literally has not existed. So draft capital, number 29 overall, 3 in the top 100. So the questions are, what did they do at the quarterback position, and how in the world did they improve their team with this cap situation? But if all they have to do is cut Michael Thomas, then all of a sudden their cap situation is not so bad.
Yeah, don't hold me to that, but I do think he is. I think he is $60 million of cap space this year.
Yeah.
I don't know how much dead money they would eat to cut him, but you almost have to cut him.
Yeah.
And then that frees you to sign a player like Derek Carr or Jimmy G or somebody like that who, that's what that feels like.
Yeah. They're number 29 is way too late to draft a quarterback in this class.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to draft Tanner McKee to come in and start.
No.
And they don't have the ammo to move up from 29 to where they'd have to get to draft one.
No. They do not.
And the quarterbacks on roster are Jameis, Andy Dalton, Taysom Hill. I feel like I'm missing somebody.
It's purgatory.
Yeah, there's just nothing. There's nothing doing there. This team was irrelevant last year, and I don't see a way that they're really not irrelevant next year unless the other teams all just stay really bad and they happen to be the one that wins the division or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
ugly.
Yeah, bad situation there. Although I did not know that Michael Thomas was so much of the cap that
I just probably look at that because I don't want to.
Well, even if it's not 60, it's a large amount of what they need to do to get right.
Yes.
See, I thought he was 20 million.
I'm going to tell you what he is.
Okay.
Go ahead and keep
While you
talking,
do that, I'll scroll down to the draft here. The Saints did not have a lot of draft picks. In my opinion, they made them count. With the 11th overall pick, they took Chris Olave, who we mentioned probably should have been Rookie of the Year, although Garrett Wilson was a great choice as well. With the 19th pick, they took Trevor Penning, a tackle out of Northern Iowa that during the draft process, Scott said was a holding penalty machine, but I thought he ended up playing pretty well during the season here. Second round, they took Alante Taylor, a safety out of Tennessee, who seemed to play okay. And then DeMarco Jackson and Jordan Jackson, I didn't see much of, but, they could be okay too.
His cap hit is $59.448 million.
Okay. Well, that'll do it.
Which is crazy.
For a wide receiver that runs slants.
Yes, no kidding. And I want to say it would cost them $14 million to do that. So
that's a no-brainer.
You'd say 45.
Yeah, so he's gone. Michael Thomas is on the market.
I think so, unless I'm reading the whole thing wrong. But yeah,
no, that seems pretty straightforward. All right, Thoughts on Trevor Penning? How did he play this year?
I thought he was fine. I do think that they got him dialed back a little less emotional, because he was like at the Senior Bowl 2 years ago. He was doing stuff like, dude, if there was a quarterback there, you're sending him for an ACL reconstruction, firing a defensive end at his knees. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then he was getting into it much too aggressively for a middle of a practice amongst all-stars type of players. Like he was over he was over the line, is the best way to put it. He just was. Now, what did they do to get him under control? I don't know. Did he miss time with some injury?
I think so, but I don't think it was a ton.
Yeah, no, I don't think he missed a ton of time, but it just seemed like that when he came back, he was much more restrained and under control while still, playing reasonably well.
Yeah. So the second place team in the NFC South was the Carolina Panthers.
Amazingly,
yes. Like I'm still shocked that they managed to do this because they fired their coach right in the middle of the year and still somehow pulled this off.
Yeah. They ran the ball extremely well. I know they went real run heavy. Yeah. Sam Darnold sort of came back and was a bit of a reclamation project for them. Played pretty well at times towards the end of the season.
Yeah, they started with Baker Mayfield, they went to PJ Walker, they went to Sam Darnold. And we'll get to why they had to do all that a little bit later.
Look at Clev. He's all over this one too.
Yes, that's what I'm going to say. Vegas win total 6.5. They won 7, so they went over. Clev said 8. Yeah.
All over it.
Yeah. He did a great job with that one. So they opened the season 1-5, but we're in a position to win the division in week 17. They let Mike Evans go 10-2-0-7-3 instead.
Oops. They did torch our Lions.
Good things you guys passed on Justin Fields for J.C. Horn, so things like this wouldn't happen.
They did obliterate our Lions. They did.
Yeah, they did. But yeah, Mike Evans just out of nowhere shows up and just absolutely murders them in a must-win game. Let's see. So they fired head coach Matt Rule in season. They made Steve Wilkes the interim head coach. The players wanted Wilkes to be made full-time coach, so of course the Panthers hired Frank Reich instead.
Yeah, and it seems like they're kind of copying what the Lions have done, what Dan Campbell's done by bringing a bunch of old players.
Yeah.
Which is smart. They've even brought somebody. Isn't Staley in Carolina right now?
I think so. Yeah, I think he went down there. They traded Christian McCaffrey to San Francisco in the middle of the season, and that was just good for everybody.
What did they get? Do you know?
I don't remember offhand what they got, but I think they got like some more picks later.
Yeah.
All right. So let me see this here. So they trade CMC in the middle of the season, worked out good for everybody. Their cap room is only negative 10. I put negative $10. It's negative $10 million.
Yeah.
But that's nothing, right, to get out of.
Yeah, no, it's not a big deal at all.
Yep. Draft capital number 9 overall, 4 in the top 100.
Is that fourth one maybe coming from?
I assume so.
San Fran for McCaffrey, yeah.
I assume so. So a lot of mocks right now have Richardson going to them at number 9. You and I both don't think he's going to be there at number 9.
Yeah.
Does Carolina have the heart, commitment, and ammo to move up and try to get him or another one of these quarterbacks if they wanted to? Are they too far back?
I don't think they're too far back. It's just it's a matter of who do you got to jump. And I would say, knowing nothing, they probably need to get in front of 6 with Detroit and not even make Detroit your trade partner. Maybe they'd have to come to 5.
Yeah.
But Seattle might be willing to accommodate them to do that.
But I do think if they
that's even if he's even there at 5.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that if the Panthers don't trade up for a quarterback, they need to trade down and target quarterback next year.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I don't think they should be in like the Jimmy G sweepstakes.
No. They need a young player who can grow with this roster. It's a younger roster.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad roster, and I think if you get good quarterback play, you probably win the division with this team.
Yeah, I mean, unless Lamar goes to Atlanta.
Well, that's a whole other,
Yeah,
that's a whole other thing. But no, it's we'll see.
Will they trade Brian Burns? Do you think that could be what they need to do to move up?
He would be a piece that would help them go up. Yeah, for sure.
Seattle would certainly take him.
Oh my God, that's the trade right there.
Yep.
We'll give you 9 in Burns when we come to 5. They would do that.
Yeah. 9 and Burns? I would just do Burns for 5.
I don't think they would do that.
You don't think Seattle would do that?
No, I don't.
If Carter and Anderson are off the board?
I just think that they're too they lost these picks too much.
Okay. If I were the Lions, I would trade number 6 for Brian Burns. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, he would give you something you currently don't have.
Yep,
for sure.
So for their draft last year, first round pick, 6 overall, Ike Ekwonu from North Carolina State. He struggled at times, but you saw the athleticism. I think he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, I do too.
Their next pick was to number 94 overall. They took Matt Corral, the quarterback of Ole Miss, who suffered a Liz Frank injury in the summer and missed the entire season.
Brutal.
Yes. But does give them something in their back pocket as a possible quarterback.
Yes.
So might be another reason to target next year instead. And then after that, did any of these players do anything? Scott Brandon Smith, Amari Barno, Cade Mays, or Kalen Barnes?
Not. I'd love to tell you that they did, but I don't know.
Not offhand. I mean, they might have played a little bit, but there was no like, that's none of that popping out from right there. So, but I'm with you. If they get a proper quarterback, they could turn this around. And that is because the champions of the NFC South will look nothing like they did before.
No.
Because that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Tom Brady is retired for good.
Yep. And that team is in trouble.
Yes. So they go 8-9. Just going to win first by 1 game in the NFC South, despite the losing record. Vegas win total was 11.5. Cleve said 12, so Cleve was off on this one. He also had them going to the Super Bowl. Yeah. Now they won this division. They won this division despite being objectively terrible.
Yes.
They lost the wild card round at home to Dallas. Tom Brady unretired, got divorced, and played the worst that he's ever played in his career.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's true.
Yeah, I mean that's right. He then retired for good, as we mentioned. Now, their cap room is negative $53 million. However, that number comes from before Brady retired. So I have to imagine that number's way lower with Brady off the books.
But is he off the books, though?
I mean, if he's retired, he can't count against the cap, can he?
His dead money can.
Mm.
You want me to look?
Sure. Paul says, God, this division was awful. It really was. Like, they had better records in the AFC South, but they were a lot worse.
Yeah.
And most of it's just Atlanta wasting London and Pitts. Like, if they would just throw the ball, this division would have been a lot better. Draft capital for the Bucks, number 19 overall, 3 in the top 100, so pretty standard right there, but they're in a position where they don't need something standard. Questions for them going into the next offseason are pretty straightforward. Number one, what are they going to do at the quarterback position? Right now, the only quarterback that they have under contract is Kyle Trask, and he's not going to be enough to get it done. Personally, I think this might be the Jimmy G landing spot is Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it could be. If
Yep.
I'm looking at this right, he has a $35.1 million dead money hit that they are going to have to eat this year.
But what was his total cap number?
35.104.
So they just have to eat it?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know exactly what the rules are, but that's what it's saying. Yeah. Yep.
Wow. Okay. They might not be able to afford Jimmy G. They might be in the Sam Darnold sweepstakes.
Possibly. Which
The
is why
Marcus
they're
Mariota
talking about
sweepstakes.
about them having to be almost stuck with Trask, which is not great.
No, not the position you want to be in. However, they do have a lot of old people on the roster who I'm sure are eating up a lot of this cap. So they need to be able to get younger talent to replace dinosaurs like Levante David, Logan Ryan, Akeem Hicks, and Julio Jones.
Yeah.
All four of them come off. That's got to help the cap a little bit. Also, Are they going to trade Chris Godwin? Given that information, they might have to. I mean,
maybe. I don't think they'll be trading Evans, but maybe Godwin.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Also, you know who they should trade Chris Godwin to? You know who would pay a fortune for Chris Godwin?
I don't know.
Kansas City.
Boy, oh boy, you're right.
Yep. I bet they could get a first and a third for Godwin from Kansas City. Just get us a proven wide receiver. The only receivers Kansas City have under contract right now are Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney.
And that's not good.
No, that is not going to get it done. As much as I have both of them in best ball last year, and will probably have again this year. That is not going to get it done for them. Godwin to Kansas City would be pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Yes, it would.
All right, looking at the draft for the Bucs here. No first round pick. They did have the first pick of the second round. They took Logan Hall, defensive tackle out of Houston. In hindsight, that probably should have been a wide receiver.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep. They took Luke Gertica, offensive tackle out of Central Michigan. He must have played.
He did play.
Yeah, because they had all those injuries.
Yep, he did play.
Yep.
He did not play great, but first year player.
Yep.
Middle of round 2, kind of what do you expect?
Yep.
Rashad White played pretty good.
Yeah, he played pretty well. Was stuck behind Fournette for some reason after it wasn't as drastic as Zeke and Pollard, but it was pretty clear White's better than Fournette at this point.
Yes.
Yeah. Cade Otton, 4th round tight end, hit.
Legit.
Yeah, hit. Smash that pick. Yep. Jake Camarda, the punter from Georgia, seemed fine.
Yep. Zion McCollum is a crazy athletic big corner who probably will transition to safety.
He played some.
Yeah, he played some. Yeah.
And then Ko Keefe, the 6th round tight end, also a hit. It's like a blocking leak out of the play action tight end. He was okay.
Yeah.
And then Andre Anthony, no idea.
No clue. Yep.
Yeah, no clue. So that's the Bucs draft right there. Again, White and Otton, great picks, but given the position that they're in right now, they couldn't be taking a punter in the 4th round.
No.
That needed to be somebody else. So that's the South Division reviews. Jake just popped in. No Clev tonight. Which is too bad because this was actually one of his better performances. Predicting the totals.
Well. He really did. He did really well.
Yeah, he did. So next week, I believe, is the North Division previews or reviews. We're going to review the Northern Division teams. Both those much more exciting than this one. We're going to get the Bengals in there. We're going to get crazy ass Aaron Rodgers, and we'll get to talk about the Lions and all sort of that. But I just like going back over sort of what we thought about the teams beforehand, seeing what happened, the story of the team throughout the season, and just sort of discussing what they need to do going forward.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you everybody who was in chat. We really appreciate it. Please like the video. If you're listening on audio, it's a YouTube live stream. There's a link down below in the show notes. Like, subscribe, all that, so you get notified when we're going live. Scott, any final words before we get out of here?
We're good. Looking forward to next week.
Yep. Well, we'll be back next week with the North Division reviews. We will see y'all then. Peace.